for the top 8 of the Invitational. Jacob Baugh was 11-1 entering the modern rounds here. Things have not gone his way. Starts off turn 1, Gemstone Mine, Insolent Neonate. Back to Cuvier. Inkmoth Nexus into Signal Pest will be his play. Now, flying is something the Dredge doesn't have too much game against.
Nope, but if Baugh is able to produce a Narcomoeba, that generally squares off pretty well against Signal Pest.
Mana Confluence for Baugh. He will main deck Dark Blast the Signal Pest. Oh my gosh.
That card's pretty brutal in this matchup too.
It is a 1-of in Jacob's main deck. How ridiculous is it that he has it? This is a nightmare for John.
Yes, and it's a Dredger, so he can start going off with that.
John plays a second Inkmoth Nexus, plays Cranial Plating, says go. Will Jacob dredge? I would have to think so.
I would want to have Dark Blast in my hand. Cranial Plating Inkmoth is very scary, but you have to be able to connect.
And the hits keep coming. Baugh dredges Dark Blast, hits Narcomoeba Bloodghast. So he has a flying blocker for a Nexus now. He has that Dark Blast still in his hand. He'll hit with Neonate. He's got everything going except for a reliable big dredge card.
Yeah, he has no third land to trigger the Bloodghast. If he could find Life from the Loam, his position would be very excellent.
Back to Cuvier we will go. Turn 3, he untaps with 2 Inkmoths and a Cranial Plating. He'll play a basic Mountain, his only basic land in the deck. You see the 1-of Galvanic Blast in his hand. Now, how does he get a Nexus like this around a card like Dark Blast?
Arcbound Ravager is generally his best way to beat Dark Blast. You can move those modular counters around, get ahead that way. Outside of Ravager, you know, he has Steel Overseer. That just dies to Dark Blast. That's a non-starter. He's really just looking at Ravager.
So John does nothing with his turn. We go to Jacob's turn. He attacks with both creatures. Galvanic Blast will shoot down the Narcomoeba. Fortunately for Baugh, he did draw a land this turn. It's another Gemstone Mine.
Right, that's great.
He has a Prized Amalgam. I guess he could hard cast.
Yep.
At the same time, I don't know if I ever want him to take down that Dark Blast mana. I'm just pretty worried about this plating Inkmoth.
Currently, Baugh is under no real distress. He has no infect. He's not poisoned at all. And Cuvier just has the 1 plating. He can animate both lands. Theoretically, he can get up to, say, 4 poison pretty easily, but 10, I'd be surprised.
So this is really interesting. Baugh's going to Dark Blast his own Neonate and sacrifice it in response. The idea here is he wants to get more dredge into the graveyard. So he can discard. So he'll discard Prized Amalgam to draw off the top of his deck. I don't really... help me out here. What is the point of this? Dark Blast into the yard.
Is that the only Dredger he has access to? He has a Grave Troll in his hand.
Oh, he just drew that off the Neonate. That was a nice gift from...
Okay.
I guess he has another land and a Neonate. So, and that, okay, this is going to make sense. Now he plays Gemstone Mine. He was worried about his ability to have a Dredger. So he gets back the Bloodghast. And that will trigger Prized Amalgam. And he says go. So he's shields down, right?
Yeah, on this window, Cuvier, let's see if John's able to produce Arcbound Ravager.
I mean, you got to worry that Affinity's going to 10 poison you if you let these shields down, right?
Doesn't have anything like pump spells, though. He's well below the threshold of artifacts that he needs to make that happen. Doesn't have enough mana to produce a second Cranial Plating, which is really what he needs to make that kind of threshold.
The Darksteel Citadel. You're thinking it's unlikely he's just sitting on a stack of Memnites.
His hand would have to be a stack of Mox Opals to get enough mana, even.
Yeah, I guess so. What is Cuvier's play? You have to think, if Cuvier does not kill him this turn, Dark Blast is never going anywhere.
Yes.
So Inkmoth Nexus will cast Bomat Courier. Nice Kaladesh addition to the deck.
Okay, he'll be able to get
some
empty-handed pretty effectively here and convert this Courier into some cards, possibly.
Courier picks up the plating, exiles a card. So we count the damage. It's a 1/1. And there are 3 artifacts in play, so it looks like he'll take 4
Steel Overseer,
Cast
masterpiece,
Steel Overseer.
entering the battlefield.
He-
I would
he
Dark
dropped
Blast
He
that
dropped a
one.
point of damage there. Is that what happened? Because if he Steel Overseers,
Right, it would be +1 with the cranial plating.
that's fine. Yeah, Steel Overseer is going to demand a Dark Blast, but this is interesting because you can't Dark Blast the Steel Overseer and then Dark Blast the Ink Moth next turn.
True.
Or if we're going for regular damage,
You can
the Courier.
certainly block with Narcomoeba, though.
That's fair. Bloodghast will attack for 2. Boss choked up right now. He's going to Dark Blast the Steel Overseer. He's got now a Grave Troll, a Grave Troll and a Stinkweed Imp in his hand, and a red card. Well, don't have a good look on that one as he passes.
I think it's Scourge Devil.
Oh yeah, that is the Jacob Baugh Dredge special.
Not a
he
good
likes
card
to play
to-
one of them.
Not a good one to have in your hand.
Now his hand's a little mopey at the moment. We go back to Cuvier. If he gets double black somehow, he can sneak around Narcomoeba.
Yeah, he can attack with multiple creatures, find a way. He's still pretty light on mana to make that kind of play.
Yeah, you have to activate the Nexus, then you have to move the plating.
Right, you have to get 2 relevant attackers.
He will cast Signal Pest. Then cast the last card in his hand. It's Vault Scourge.
Okay, so empty-handed, he'll be able to convert this Bomat Courier into a couple cards if he chooses.
Pretty into that.
It's like a red Thoughtcast.
If only we could play with Thoughtcast in Modern, right? Bomat Courier will swing. Trigger gets another card. Ball will block with the Amalgam. Yeah, Kubi says, yeah, you're right. I wasn't.
Yeah.
I want the cards.
Not actually interested in trading with that Amalgam here.
It's a Blinkmoth Nexus, and it looks to be another Cranial Plating. Now, this I like. A lot of mana, 2 platings. That's a way to get around some defenses.
Yes, so with the 2 platings, now he's threatening to be able to produce lethal attackers, be it with infect or regular combat damage with the Baugh at 14. 2 platings is a lot of damage.
The Dredge of Dark Blast from Jacob Baugh. 3 cards in the yard. Dakmor Salvage, Bloodghast, Neonate. His hand, Scourge Devil, Grave Troll, Stinkweed Imp. Nothing special here. I'm worried if I am a Jacob Baugh fan right now.
The Dark Blast does pad his life total very effectively, though.
Swing for 5. I mean, you can't really understate just how good Dark Blast has been here. It's already killed 2 creatures, and it looks like it's just going to kill a creature every turn.
Yep. You know, Baugh would love to be able to produce more Narcomoebas, more prized amalgams, what have you. For now, the Dark Blast is doing a lot of good work. John doesn't have anything like a main deck Spellskite that he can draw to, which would, really wreck the Dark Blast. Still, actually, this is still a great window if he's able to produce Arcbound Ravager. He'd be able to just beat the Dark Blast very handily.
Right.
And for Cuvier, still not any black mana sources. No Glimmer Voids, no Mox Opals yet, so we won't be able to move these platings around.
Right, yeah, if he had double black, he could just kind of overload Jacob's interaction. I mean, all of Cuvier's threats fly. Jacob only has 1 flying blocker and only 1 Dark Blast.
Right.
And what about the ability, okay, activate Inkmoth Nexus, equip it, swing, and if Jacob tries to Dark Blast it, pump it with the Blinkmoth.
Yeah, with the Blinkmoth here now, that takes off the ability to just Dark Blast it down. Jacob would have to block and then Dark Blast if a pump occurred. You know what card would make this game easy?
Arcbound Ravager?
That's Champion.
Yeah, I'd be into that one. Inkmoth will be activated on Cuvier's side. Taps a red. He will give some equipment to the Vault Scourge. Give some equipment to the Inkmoth. Uses his Blinkmoth Nexus, so not going to leave up that pump. I guess the Battle Cry on Signal Pest is pretty nice here. It means that his creatures won't... Well, they'll do 1 more damage.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Does
still
not
it doesn't pump toughness, does it?
Yeah, he's choosing to overload the Dark Blast by attacking with multiple creatures, which I believe is a poorer use of resources than just leaving back the Blink Moth Nexus.
Yeah, his last draw there was Bowmat Courier, so he's going to cast that. There is only one blocker on Baugh's side.
Something about Cuvier's position, he does have to be concerned about the fact that he is at 8.
Yeah, I mean, if the Vault Scourge connects, that's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
Seeing
It's not going to because of the Dark Blast, but this is a position where Conflagrate would probably kill Cuvier.
or his board, or just whatever Jacob wanted it to do. Here's a swing. Signal Pest staying back as a blocker. Bowmat Courier gets the top card of Cuvier's deck. Now, Ryan, this seems like a straightforward block for Baugh. Block one, shoot one, go on with your life.
It certainly looks that way. Baugh likely trying to determine whether or not he has to block the Ink Moth. Quick artifact count. Looks like 7 are on the battlefield.
Now, once Baugh loses this Narc Amoeba, that is a very scary position for Jacob, because then he loses control of the air.
Right.
Yeah, so it looks like he's going to block the Nexus, and I assume shoot the Vault Scourge. I don't think he wants any life gain on this side.
Right.
That will be the play. Shoot the Vault Scourge. Does he pay with a life pointer with a mining counter, though?
Seems like the Gemstone Mine would be the way to go. 14's a pretty high life total, but John is dealing in very heavy amounts of damage. If he has to take 2 points off of the Confluence, that could be the difference in this game.
So some news from the floor. Todd Anderson, with a win, finishes the 4-0 run in Modern, ends the tournament 11-4-1. So that win will take Ted Felicetti out of the Players' Championship conversation.
Right, well done by Todd.
And might just put Todd in. We'll have to see how Shear's match goes.
Dredge's Dark Blast, but misses on Conflagrate.
Yeah. Would have made it easy, right?
Right.
So he'll have to do this the hard way. Here's Bloodcast. John goes to 6. Ugh. Ugh. And you know, one of the nice parts about last turn is because of John putting all these platings on the non-Bowmat Courier, he's going to get a second card off the Courier when he attacks next turn.
Yeah. And Baugh has Stinkweed Imp in hand, but he does not have enough mana to cast Imp and leave up Dark Blast.
Yeah, Stinkweed Imp. His hand really just hasn't helped him at all this game. Stinkweed Imp, Golari Grave Troll, Scourge Devil, those are just real garbage things waiting in his hand.
Yeah.
And he's going to use up his lands, and it looks like Stinkweed Imp as a blocker is going to take the forefront. That is instead of leaving up Dark Blast. So can Cuvelier capitalize here?
Yeah, just one flying blocker. You know, Jacob did make the block with the Narc Amoeba, so he currently has no poison counters on himself.
Galvanic Blast, that was a 1-of in his deck. That one's already gone. So Cuvier, what can he put together? Looks like Blink Moth Nexus will become a creature. Now we get to put 2 cranial platings on our things. Pliers Amalgam back as a blocker, too.
Yep, that's looking to trade with something on the ground.
All right, plating onto the land and the Signal Pest and a swing. They both fly, so one of them's getting in.
6 is the artifact count, so the Signal Pest attacking for 6, the Blink Moth for 8.
Yeah, Battle Cry.
Gotta make a block.
Yeah, it's 14. So Stinkweed Imp blocks the land, which means it looks like 6 damage. What do we count here? Putting Jacob Baugh down to 7.
Yep.
Yeah, they agree. And it says go. The cranial platings actually does not fall off Signal Pest. It's not a land. John can put that plating back on, should put it back on the Signal Pest. But it's not going to matter. Jacob Baugh
Okay, so Baugh had a Bloodghast ready
his
to
yard.
go. Dredge Dackmore salvage. Cuvier was below 10.
So Bloodghast has haste.
Has haste. He was able to crack in. He still had the amalgam. That's lethal.
Great. That is lethal. So game 1 to Jacob Baugh. He's looking for his first modern win today. And it would be the right time for it.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
definitely. High pressure match here. This is a winning in.
And that is a game where, with the turn 1 Dark Blast out of Baugh, I now didn't think it would actually end up being as close as that.
Right. The Dark Blast is very powerful as a spell, but as far as a Dredge enabler, it's pretty mopey. He has a hand that it really didn't do anything, so he was relying on dredging 3 every turn and that -1/-1. If Cuvier ever had an Arcbound Ravager, that would have pretty easily been his game.
Yeah, I mean, there's not very much play. Dark Blast does not do well against Arcbound Ravager.
Right.
So let's look then at the sideboards. I want to go first to Jacob Baugh's sideboard. The issue with this matchup is, while it's close game 1, I believe it actually is Dredge that improves out of the board.
Yeah.
We have a full set of Thoughtseize, 2 Collective Brutality, a Surgical Extraction, a Lightning Axe, an Ancient Grudge, a Nature's Claim, a Nod of the Bone, 2 Abrupt Decays, and 2 Golgari Charms.
The Ancient Grudge, of course, is excellent. Nature's Claim is a great 1-for-1, very efficient rate. The 2 Abrupt Decays will be able to destroy anything. Those cards are excellent as well. And the Golgari Charms are quite excellent. Giving all creatures -1/-1 kills basically everything in Cuvier's deck. Golgari Charm is quite strong. The other modes don't do a lot. Cuvier has Blood Moons in his deck. I assume he's sideboarding them out. So mostly this is going to be the kind of nausea effect, just to shrink all the creatures.
All right. John Cuvier's sideboard. He's got 3 Thoughtseize, 2 Ancient Grudge, 2 Spellskite, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, 2 Etched Champion, a Resting Piece, a Ghirapur Aether Grid, a Blood Moon, and a Galvanic Blast. Now keep in mind there's 3 Blood Moons in the main already.
Yes, which are hopefully coming out in this matchup. The 2 Grafdigger's Cage are excellent. Graveyard Hate, of course. The 2 Etched Champions, they would have won game 1. I have to imagine that they're coming in here as a way to break through. When the Dredge deck is able to stall you out. The Rest in Peace, another piece of Graveyard Hate, that's excellent. Figure all of these cards are coming in.
Yeah. So what is on the line here at the Invitational? The top 8, of course. At guarantees $1,500, 30 SCG points, a chance at so much more. Invitation, of course, to our next Invitational that is happening at the end of June in Roanoke, Virginia. Now, for each of these players, especially for Jacob Baugh, it's been a great tournament. Those 30 SCG points have now qualified him for, or the 20 at least that he gets here, will have qualified him, we believe, for the Players' Championship.
Yep. Very big weekend for Baugh. See if he can make it even bigger.
Now on the line, $10,000, 50 SCG points, but not just that. Tomorrow we are playing for the title Players Champion, an invitation and flight to the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour. Pro Tour Aether Revolt, the next one coming up. That is in Dublin. So
it's a good spot.
Pretty good there.
I'm not gonna poo-poo a flight to Dublin.
A token with a personalized token of your choice, created by Star City Games. You get buys and free entry to the Opens and as well as the Classics. So a ton on the line this weekend.
Yes, winning the Invitational is huge. All this and $10,000.
So some updates from across the field. Most of our other matches, you see Cedric Phillips in the back keeping tabs on those ones. What we know, Brad Nelson winning his match. That he was in 32nd. That win has earned him a spot in the Players' Championship.
All right.
Congratulations to Brad Nelson. Todd Anderson a win. Caleb Shear also winning. So Todd's run here, we're going to have to see how the standings shape up. It is unlikely that will be enough for him to pass Caleb.
Nice.
One of the 2 of them will be qualified.
Nice tiebreaker sweat.
Yeah, it's going to be very close. Game 2 underway. John starts on Grafdigger's Cage Ornithopter. That was one of the 2 copies in the sideboard, and it's one of the most important cards.
Yep, Grafdigger's Cage is excellent. The downside of this versus Rest in Peace is anything Baugh puts in the graveyard in the meantime, he'll be able to access meaningfully down the road, and Baugh is bringing in stuff like Ancient Grudge, Abrupt Decay, Nature's Claim, so he's looking for a way to destroy that.
So Baugh, turn 1, Faithless Looting. He discards a Dredger and Stinkweed Imp. The question, I guess, is does he have Artifact Destruction? If he doesn't, none of this matters. You can't even Ancient Grudge Cage out of the graveyard.
Right. Dredging would be very ineffective unless he really wants to cast a 3-mana 1/2 flyer.
And now John's going to try to close while Jacob's shields are down. Beaumat Courier is the play. It swings for 1. John follows it up with a Signal Pest. So the battle cry will actually work pretty well as he's swarming the board with creatures.
Yeah, there's 2 other creatures currently on the battlefield. If he's able to produce some more Beaumat Couriers.
And look at the draw from Baugh, though. It is a copy. He draws off the top. He draws one of his Abrupt Decays. It is what he needed to do here, and now he passes back to Cuvier.
That'll help him start playing Magic, but then he also has to dredge well from there. He's not out of it yet.
Yeah, well, he has to not die to this damage. I mean, Affinity turns the corner very quickly.
Yes. And also with the Beaumat Courier, if that's able to attack a couple more times, that gives Cuvier a lot more action, right?
So plays a 3rd land, goes to attacks. Baugh's not thinking hitting the Courier, is he? He's Golgari Charming. Correction, that might not actually be Abrupt Decay. But Golgari Charm will kill Courier. It will kill Signal Pest. No attacks from Cuvier. This is huge.
Yep, he's gone from taking any damage at all to facing out an Ornithopter.
Etch Champion is the play from Cuvier. We go back to Baugh.
Champion's great.
Dredge.
Metalcraft is online, so that has protection from everything.
Stinkweed Imp dredges. It hits a prized Amalgam and a Narcomoeba, but that's not going to enter the battlefield.
Nope.
Or will it? It was an Abrupt Decay. He hits the Graph Digger's Cage with the trigger on the stack. So yes, Narcomoeba will come into play.
Okay, this is an excellent swing.
Talk.
We'll find out if Cuvier is able to produce a Cranial Plating.
May not matter.
Suit up this Etch Champion. He can kill Baugh before he's really able to get going, but now he is on a clock.
Faithless Looting, and Baugh is just firing on all cylinders. First, here's a dredge of 5. Flips an Ancient Grudge into the graveyard along with a Narcomoeba and a Dark Blast. Oh my goodness. So he'll dredge that Dark Blast into his hand. 3 more.
Yeah, and that Ancient Grudge there, that'll be a hedge against a potential Cranial Plating from Cuvier.
Look at this. So this dredge deck, so not only do Cuvier have a cage, but Baugh is just, this is doing everything.
Whoa.
He's got Golgari Charm, he kills the hate card, then he gets a Grudge in the graveyard, a Dark Blast in his hand while dredging through his deck. This is out of control.
He cast basically 2 mana Plague Wind.
Right.
And then he just destroyed the hate card.
And then he just drew 5 on that dredge. And they're all excellent. They're double 1 mana kill spell and a clock.
Reasonable.
4th land from Cuvier. Last card, another Graph Digger's Cage.
Okay, well that'll turn off that Ancient Grudge. It'll stop more dredging shenanigans.
Yeah. And last turn, I guess there's only 5 power in play. You see that Cuvier left back the champion, though, as a blocker.
Yeah, that'll block the Amalgam. It has protection from whatever, so that'll just bounce. And the 2 Narcomoebas, only 1 can connect through the Ornithopter. And as soon as that Blinkmoth Nexus starts being able to pump itself next turn, Baugh doesn't have any attacks.
So Baugh actually dredged Stinkweed Imp here. My thought is he can play it as a 1/2. We might be playing that kind of Magic.
That one can attack.
Also, and this may seem strange, if he starts dredging Life from the Loam to make land drops and then starts casting Grave Trolls, can he win that way?
If Cuvier is not up to anything, absolutely. He's still at 19 versus 20.
While I know that's a horrible line, it might be better than drawing cards off the top of the deck. When Dredge draws cards, you draw Narcomoebas. There's a bunch of garbage. So you see, he will cast the Stinkweed Imp. He swung the Narcomoebas in and then says go. He had the option of using that last mana to finish off Ornithopter and actually declined.
Yeah, he'd rather just keep this Dark Blast in his hand. He'd like to be able to use it to kill that Blinkmoth Nexus or maybe something like a Steel Overseer off the top, which could be a disaster.
And Baugh, I think he is going for that line. You see him dredging Life from the Loam now? Oh yeah, let's just...
Yeah. Once he gets up to 1 Grave Troll, he'll be able to start connecting with his Amalgam. Once he gets up to 2, he can actually start beating down with these giant monsters.
Life from the Loam gets back 3 lands for Jacob Baugh. I like my Magic to either be really unfair or really clunky. And this one, this is doing it for me. The second one, right?
It should look like a vintage deck or like a draft deck.
Yeah. He's gonna play a 5/5 for 5. Maybe you can regenerate it. This is great.
But if you want to regenerate it, you gotta remove a +1/+1 counter.
All right, so we see a swing. John activates Blinkmoth. He tries to block and then pump. John may have forgotten about the Dark Blast.
Yeah, likely not an interaction that he's had to face down too many times.
And that's actually wise on Jacob's side. It's why I think we didn't see him finish off the Ornithopter, is he knew I'm going to need this to deal with the creature land.
Yep.
And now Cuvier's hand is just a Citadel and an Opal. He's looking at it. I'm not sure he'll be able to deal with the medium beats of Dredge.
This is how Dredge wins a lot of his games, too.
I always thought that about Legacy Dredge. I'll admit I have not seen much of this out of Modern Dredge.
Legacy Dredge was losing these games a lot. A big upgrade was just Prized Amalgam being a 3/3.
Yeah, it's better than 1/2s and Icarids. Here's a swing from Baugh. Cuvier will take his free block, but he takes 2, goes to 16. And now the 6th land into play for Baugh. Here come the Grave Trolls. Let's count just how big of a monster is it going to be. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Beautiful. 8/8. Well, all right then.
That's half of Cuvier's current life total.
And it's not the only Grave Troll. Jacob can run this back next turn.
The other one might even be larger, of course, dredging 6. The Etch Champion can still block this one, but this will free up the Prized Amalgam to start chipping in for 3.
John draws Blinkmoth Nexus. This is great. Jacob looking to pull ahead thanks to some 5-mana 8/8s with medium regeneration abilities.
Yeah, this is why Golgari Grave Troll was once banned in Modern, because it's such a good raid. It could be like a 5-mana 10/10. How do you even compete with that?
Well, Jacob dredges Dark Blast. That dumps another Grave Troll into the yard. Well, all right then. And now he's going to swing just everything. No fear at this point. He knows the initiative is his. Etched Champion is going to have to get in front of Grave Troll. You see, Jacob dredged the Dark Blast because of the Blinkmoth.
Yeah, wants to be able to keep chipping in with these Narc Amoebas. He knows attacking into the Etch Champion is not really too productive on the ground. His flyers are really going to be dealing the majority of the damage here.
So much aggro now for Baugh. It's another Stinkweed Imp that adds 1 more power to his board.
Yeah, this is just a Ravnica block draft deck.
Rest in peace, the draw from Cuvier. That is too late.
Yeah, Grave Troll enters with +1/+1 counters. It's not tracking the creatures in the graveyard. Also, the Rest in Peace does nothing about these flyers.
about this pair of Narcomoebas, pair of Stinkweed Imps, just Cuvier down to 10. Now keep in mind, Cuvier actually does have real magic cards, so he could, in theory, draw out of this. He exiles away Baugh's graveyard.
In theory.
You could play catch with a cranial plating, maybe chunk Baugh twice with it. There's a chance, I think.
I think he needs cranial plating plus, because even with his current artifact count, it looks like 5 plus a creature land. The plating wouldn't even be a 2-turn clock with the Etch Champion.
He is not going to have many chances. All-out swing from Baugh. It is 6 creatures, 2 Narcomoebas, 2 Stinkweed Imps, a Prized Amalgam, and of course the 8/8 Grave Troll.
8/8 gets blocked by 2/2 protection from everything.
Looks like Cuvier takes the free block, but 6 damage comes across. John is down to 4, and maybe his last turn. Jacob will pass. John's going to need something.
Perhaps Gearpur Aether Grid to shoot down these 1/1s.
It's cranial plating. There was
a stage in this game where this would have been a relevant draw.
What's the issue here? It's that we have two blockers and 6 attackers. 4 damage is going to happen.
Right.
Remember, Jacob's last card's Dark Blast. If John tries to turn that Nexus into a 3rd blocker, Jacob's not going to let it. Sure, it can save itself, but it has to tap to do it.
Exactly. That will be removed from combat. And Cuvier going to go through the motions.
Here's the cranial plating. Make Jacob do it at least, right?
Right.
And the last card, Mox Opal.
If you suit up the Etch Champion, it would at least make it so that the Grave Troll has to start regenerating in combat, but the issue is the flyers. It has been the whole time.
Yeah, and there's also the secondary issue of even if Jacob doesn't play the next... we believe that Jacob has him dead on board, but even if Jacob plays it wrong, he's going to win the next turn. You know, this is John's hoping that he stays alive, not hoping he wins.
Right. Baugh still at 19.
I guess if he somehow were to stay alive and then drew another plating, he could just one-shot Jacob. There are enough artifacts to start looking at that. This isn't real, though.
Right.
I don't think Jacob misses.
No, he's not the kind of player that does that, especially the way he's been playing this game. He's been chipping in every turn. There's no reason why he would just stop.
You mentioned it before with Jacob, one of his strengths as a player, and the strength that may carry him to the top 8 here into the Players' Championship is he's very solid on the fundamentals.
He's not going to miss anything that's right in front of him. That's just not his nature.
Oh, he still has that Scourge Devil in hand, doesn't he? Here's Bloodghast. It has haste. Swing the team. Well, that's going to do it. Overkill. John is going to attempt to activate Inkmoth Nexus. He wants to make another blocker. No, says Jacob. And there you have it. It's the handshake. Jacob Baugh does pick up a win in Modern, and it sends him to the top 8 of the Invitational.